All right, hello to everyone on a Stampscapes Sunday. We're going to try the U-inkit. I had no idea what that was. I thought it was a J there before. U-inkit vinyl printable sticker paper. Someone needs to come up with an acronym for that. All right, so I have different patterns here. This one's a real mellow. It's a reflective kind of foil, holographic foil. It almost looks like almost like an iridescent though, because the little particles are so small, the little elements within that scene. So really kind of mellow looking sky. I don't know, if we add some clouds to it, maybe it look somewhat realistic in terms of some of the types of looks that we can see under certain weather conditions in the sky at times. Hello, Deborah. And a much more kind of bombastic surface right here that I'm going to try to merge with some autumn types of imagery. I don't know, I think I'm going to use both of the autumn imagery. But anyways, 10 pack sheets, five different types of papers, 2 of each, 8.5 by 11. All right, so that being said, let's give these a test here. All right, so these are vinyl sticker papers, okay? So I've found that they work really well with Brilliance inks as a base coat to stamp on these. Now remember, these papers by nature, they're intended to be used with inkjet and laser types of printers, you know, so you run them through and then you get a really cool, you know, you get your whatever printed on top of this type of thing. And they're not necessarily made for stamping on. But if we can use those kind of unconventional surfaces, it really opens up the doors for a lot of different looks that we can give our pieces. And I think the vinyl, printable vinyl sticker papers, not to be mistaken with holographic cardstocks or the cold press holographic cold laminating types of things. So basically, some of them are just stickers. They're not meant to be printed on, okay? So remember, these are the printable types right here. Hello, Kay and Rhonda. Stampscapes Day in your craft room. I love it. Okay, so anyways, but these, what I was saying is that these printable vinyls, for me, from when I've just, I don't know, played around with these so far, I find that this might be some of the most applicable types of surfaces to utilize with stamping, provided, here's the one thing, you got to have some Brilliance inks. As far as the way that I'm using it, I mean, you can stamp on these types of things right here, but they're going to be really loud, okay, in terms of a surface. So I like to do, and they're not just for landscape stamping or anything like that, but if you can kind of mute these out a little bit, I just think it looks all the better because it just pairs really well with colored pencils and things. I'm going to try, I don't think I've used alcohol inks over the top of the Brilliance ink yet. So I'm going to try that. Hello, Travel Dreamer. Yeah, so we're going to try a couple things here. I'm going to do one mirror card with this. Now, maybe these are the same surfaces, okay? They just have different patterns on them. So I'm guessing, okay, I guess I shouldn't assume that they're going to react the same way to the different media, but I'm assuming they have the same surface coated on top of whatever patterning, holographic patterning is on here. I don't know that for sure, but I don't know. I guess I should be careful about what I assume these days because luckily the things that I've assumed, most of the types of things that I'm assuming probably wouldn't work have worked, okay? There has been something that I thought would work or that looked like it was working at the time that didn't work, which was, if any of you were in, was it my last live stream? This area down here, I did some prints of dye-based inks over the top of my Brilliance ink and it looked pretty good when it was first stamped on there, but that dye-based ink kept running. Now, maybe if I spray sealed it immediately, maybe it would have held fast, but it didn't look good. It kept spreading and smearing out. Good thing about Brilliance ink and dye-based ink, it didn't look good, so I just took a wet paper towel and I just wiped it off. Now I'm not going to leave it like this down here. I'll just stamp some other things down here. I'll put some extra brilliance ink down here and put a couple other images down here. And I might look into some other colors of brilliance ink that will print on that surface just fine, or StazOn. Okay, so that would, that would remedy that. So I don't know. It's never a bad thing to try things out, because you'll know more than you did when you first started, okay? So failures can be very educational. Failed attempts, I should say, okay? Failed experiments. They're always experiments. Think of it, what you're doing as experiments, and, I think you'll be much more open to trial and success, trial and error, whatever. Okay, so adding in some brilliance ink. I'm doing my paper towel masking down here. We're going to stamp some autumn types of imagery in here. Here's the thing, on this one right here, I guess I should leave some area open down here, because this patterning right here will be reflected in the water down below, so I'm not going to take and cover everything up, but we'll cover up quite a bit here. Hello, Debbie. Been quite a while since I was here. Good to see you again. I haven't been on a regular basis of late myself. Sometimes there'll be times when I'm on like every day for a while, then I don't know, something will come up and I might not be able to jump on for a few days in terms of live. Or sometimes if I'm going for like a quick scene or something like that, I just record it. Because I tend to blab on about things, and if I'm going for kind of a fast process, then I don't know, I'm just going on straight through and teaching, I guess. Okay, so anyways, adding some of that white ink down there, and remember the image is going to be stamped right over that like that. Okay. All right, so I guess I should look at this right here. That's going to be a little bit lighter, so right down here, so it'll come around like this. All right, you don't have to be exact, or you don't have to be close to it, I should say. It's really the more accurate type of description of what I'm going after right here. Okay, let's see, it's going like this. By the way, this is 4.5 by 8.5. I wanted to go for, a lot of times I do half page, so 8.5 by 5.5. But on this one, I wanted to, make it look a little bit more elongated, so I cut off an extra inch and a half off the height, just because it kind of reiterates this elongated format of the autumn bank and autumn brook here. More of that slimline type, half page isn't really quite slimline. I don't know, it might even look better if I cut that a little bit more even. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so anyways, I hope you are all well and avoiding whatever that flu was going around. A lot of people out right now. All right, so after I add this down here like this with that little template, you're going over the top of it, like so. I've added, now if I was just doing clouds and I wasn't going to stamp something over it right here, I would have left more variation in here, but these clouds right here are just going to be kind of rising up from the back of the autumn brook here. All right, and see this part right here, these are black right here, so I really don't need to block it out in here, but I want to block off this area in here because I want to get that autumn color in there. I don't know. This area, this card, I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to look. My kind of inclination my natural inclination when I look at this type of paper is to go for something more solid in here, silhouette types of things, Lakeside Cove, you know, with pine trees or something like that, and to not bring in elements that are so colorful, you know, because we already have all that color going in there. But again, this is like a little experiment, and I had these stamps out from the last scene, so I'm just kind of combining a couple of these things down here, and we might as well just see and, you know, see what they look like on here. I don't know the medium, but I'll probably go with some colored pencils down here just because they are so kind of mellow and soft of a medium, the look of it I'm talking about. I'm hoping that that will provide enough contrast with the sharp kind of shards of, you know, color that are going on in the sky. And this sky right here would look really awesome in a, like I said, some pine trees or whatever, and then you just splatter paint over the top of it with some white paint. I would do a lot of splatter painting on this one, hopefully to get some larger specks or something like that to make it look like an icy looking, oh, I don't know, storm in the background. But definitely a playful one at that. All right, so adding that down. I'm adding in quite a bit because this is, you know, like I said, it's almost a half sheet right here. So, all right, so this is what this is going to look like right here. We'll get some of that reflecting down here. Let's say, did I block off enough? Okay, that tree goes up to about right there, so. I mean, you can add some of this down and then stamp it out. And then if you need to, you can go over it a little bit more with some white ink if you've missed some spots. And it'll just look like, you know, some white mist is in front of it, which I'm going to be adding in there anyway. But I want open areas in here to color my trees freely. Okay. So closed off areas. So a little bit of consideration going into it. Maybe down here a little bit more. So it's going to be white ink, impressions, and then white ink on top of it for a little bit of cloud structuring. All right, so let's see. We'll go like that, and maybe I'll come in like this too. We'll have some clouds up here like that, and hopefully that will close off that top a little bit, because after all, it's like extremely loud up there. I wouldn't be able to really stamp out like some kind of quote stamp in here unless it was like a super bold font, you know, but that wouldn't look good in here. So I'm thinking about closing this off up here. I mean, you can do it two ways. You can have some other clouds in the background like this, okay, but kind of more faint, or you can have them coming in like this, where you have kind of an open area like that, like a band of, you know, this open sky like that. Now that I mentioned this, going like this, but in a fainter version, I'm kind of leaning towards that now that I look at it. When I do this type of thing like this from the top, and I leave an open area like that, I usually do that for a nighttime type of sky. But these are so light like that, I don't associate, look how crazy that is. I don't associate this with a nighttime type of thing because it's largely lighter, I think, than dark. It's most of the things that are in here, I think, are under 30% in terms of light and dark. Sometimes when it turns that little purple like that, but it's like that right there, but you know, that's at like a really specific angle where most of the time it's kind of much lighter. It'd be kind of interesting to have this thing, something like this, but make it an underwater scene, you know, when I look at that. Okay, so let's see right here. Let's go with this right here. And let's go for a lighter touch like this. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit more translucent of an application here. You can make it a little bit more opaque in some areas, but I think by and large, let's let the paper show. All right, now this is where, these are the types of things that I do on here that for me make it a more usable surface for landscapes, okay? You know, it's just not so crazy and overpowering. I do want that overpowering type of aspect of it, but not at all angles, okay? Yeah, let's just see how it goes. Like I said, this is a really, it's not quite as loud as one of the more recent holographic cardstocks that I've used, okay? But it's definitely not quiet, that's for sure. Anything super reflective too, you know, is going to be quite dynamic. All right, so I think that is that. I don't know if you can see that. Well, you can see it pretty well right there, okay? So is that, you know, where it gets a little, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit more translucent there, see-through, okay? So it's just not quite as heavy as that, so it kind of complements that a little bit. I mean, you can go as many times as you want, like right in the back here. If you go up like that, it usually represents something a little bit farther back in the distance, so maybe you can make, it can go from opaque, a little bit more translucent, to a little bit more see-through. I mean, they're all translucent. There's, you know, there's different degrees of it. Let's see here. Hello, Rhonda. Oh, I already said that. I didn't check the last names as this is scrolling down. Hello, Melody, there. I get lost in the, I get mesmerized, hypnotized, you know. By the way, you can hypnotize people with this too, you know. You can like this and have them look at it and, I don't know, you get them to bark like a dog. Or I don't know, whatever those things they do when they hypnotize people in those little seminars. Or, you know, those people that are prone to sensitive to light, whatever, you know, you can put like a thing, like a covering on this and say, you know, those that are, you know, beware those that are prone to whatever, seizures and whatnot, you know, proceed with caution here. Okay, all right, now here's the thing on this. You have to decide what media you're going to stamp out your objects in, okay? I'm going to go with the colored pencils on this one, so that if I wanted to go with a VersaFine Clair or something like that, no problem, okay? I think I can go on with just about anything. The StazOn, the VersaFine Clair, which are, those two are like opposites almost, okay? One's a solvent ink that dries very fast. One's an oil-based thick medium that requires some sort of absorbency ability within your surface like this. And I think I've tried the, okay, I've used the VersaFine just directly on this holographic printable, that's the key thing, vinyl, and that absorbed into that. So between the brilliance and this surface, it shouldn't be a problem. But I want to get some color in my impressions right here, okay, just inherently. So I'm going to go with my pens again on this. So let's see how that goes here. Hello, PNF. Good to see you. Welcome to the latest edition of Stampscapes Sunday. All right. Olive green. This isn't like a set formula or anything. It just happens to be like, these are the pens that apparently are still working that I still have from many years ago. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna go a little bit darker on this one, okay, as opposed to like, you know, your yellow autumn tones and whatnot. Okay. And the reason why is just, you know, if I don't go a little bit dark up against that craziness, I'm not quite sure what's going to be showing. Actually, I'm going too dark now. See that? Right, that. Some of my pens are kind of dry and some of them are a little bit, or quite a bit drier and lighter, so I don't know. Let's just see. So this is how you do a little bit of blending. I don't know. A lot of you are probably cringing seeing me do this. Blending in, you know, like red into green and whatnot. These are the trees up here, and these are the reflections down here on this, like that, okay? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm cringing a little myself with how dark that green was. But, yeah, because I usually don't go that light. Okay, now this is the orange, and I'm kind of going in here, and I'm kind of pulling, removing some of that ink off. So you just kind of, you know, twirl that and get that off, you know. It gets polluted, then it gets unpolluted like that. Hey, this is what we all used to do, though. Everyone was coloring like this. I would say at least through the mid-90s, okay? That was before stamp pads came out, so everyone was getting multicolored impressions. There was a lot of eraser carving types of designs out there, too. You know, real solid types of things, so we were all coloring those types of things with markers, and then you would just get your colors inherently in the impressions. That's where a lot of the color came from, as opposed to stamping and then post-stamp coloring in. I mean, there you know, people were doing that too, but there was a lot of bold shape types of image coloring, especially with the D. Grunig Posh Impressions types of designs that were real big, bold, and solid like that. All right, so that's a lot of coloring right there. If that one comes out, I'm not going to spend that much time on that one. I'll spend a little bit less time. Okay, so let's see here. If I don't do this for a while, that type of coloring on there, you kind of have to get reacclimated a little bit to it. And then you have to kind of know what, how your pens are. Like, oh, that yellow one was a lot juicier and whatnot, you know, than the other one. All right, so it's like Christmas colors or something like that. Okay, but it gives me a little bit of a head start for what's to come. And I want to use my paint pens on here too, because I really like the looks of the paint pens on there. Okay, so let's go a little bit faster here. Okay. Glad you like the mirror card and demonstrations there. Those are really fun to do. We're going to do a mirror card on one of these examples today. And we'll see how that comes out. All right, so this is going right here. I just have that little space like that. So you just overlap it like so and fill in like that. Okay. We need a little bit more orangish tones, don't we? Okay, let's go like this and... Okay. That mirror card with the autumn stuff, I want to do another, that basic type of look can go really fast, especially if it's photo stamped, just because you have all that background already filled in. Now, the difference between photo stamping and this thing like this is that, you know, the photo stamping, that cloud type of formation that was used on here, it just, you know, clouds just already inherently harmonize with the background. So on this one, I find that, you know, that background is almost, it's almost kind of, you know, where it's working against harmony. It's about contrast, you know, as opposed to blending in just about every way. But to get those types of things to merge, it's like this, you know, you're like this intermediary trying to, you know, convince a couple things, opposing the opposite things to get along. That's what it feels like you know, you're kind of doing with really, really loud surfaces. And I don't know, common media colors or whatever, like that Brilliance white ink running through both like that. You know, that's one of them. Textures can help, you know, just common, you know, finding commonality or whatever. It's like a metaphor for living. Okay, so let's go in here. I don't know if I've colored that the same. Might even colored them quite differently for all I know. Yeah, it's more greens on that one. Okay, so see this one right here where I've used the autumn brook here. I stamped that out like that. I could have used this portion right here to stamp right over here, but I just used this portion. But see, this right here, I'm just going to use that right there to fill in this space. So you can just keep going across as far as you want with this type of imagery. All right, let's see which side of it there. Make sure I don't color the wrong side. Stampers always have to think in reverse, don't we? In addition to straightforward. Okay, just a simple thing. I'm going to use some foreground elements in here to be covering up a lot of stuff anyways, so I'm not going to take too much time here on that. Although there was a decent amount of time coloring that maybe we would have been better served with, like, black. It always gives me a little bit of a head start on white paper, but on this I'm thinking, I don't know if that really mattered. Okay, so that is that. Let's see, I think we're done with the pens. I store my pens face down. Okay, so that is that. All right, now let me see here. The Brilliance ink is water-based, and is set on there. And I did that water-based. The Marvy markers were water-based too, so I'm going to try the alcohol markers directly on this, okay? I'm hoping that the Brilliance ink, coloring over these water-based impressions here of the autumn imagery is no problem, but I'm just kind of curious to know if the alcohol ink here, not really in terms of the being alcohol, but just the moisture of it, I'm wondering if it's going to remove some of that Brilliance ink that's already been applied. When I've used colored pencils directly on the Brilliance ink that has been applied to the printable vinyl, I haven't really had any problem with it adhering. It doesn't scrape off at all. That Brilliance ink really sticks really well to the vinyl, the printable vinyl, okay? So let's test out these pens here. These pens, I'm going to need the brighter types of elements on here now I think about it. I was thinking about colored pencils on here, but I think we have to go bolder on this, just for it to balance out what's going on in here in terms of the coloring. So we're changing up a little bit. If I would have went black, it would have been, you know, possibly a colored pencil type of thing. I don't know. I can try it on another one. Let's see how this goes here. Let's see. Let's start off with a lighter tone first. I start off with dull, then I work a little bit darker, and then I go back to the lighter usually. But let's see if this how this takes it. Okay. Yeah. Uh, why do you? Okay, Verna. If I start with light tones, okay. If you work with light tones like this, and then you work with dark tones, when you're working with a pen, if you go with the dark over the light, it's going to, any part where you leave a dark tone on top of that, it's going to leave a really definitive edge, right? But if you go dark and then you work light back into it, it's going to have more of a gradual type of look. So you can work it both ways. You can go light, dark, and then light again, and it'll look more watercolory. But if I did a light green on this and I did like a green streak across there like that or something like that, a dark one, when you print it out, it's just going to look like a light tree with a green streak. But the thing is that on this type of thing, you're doing more of a watercolory type of look, and you're looking to transition values within this or textures or whatever. So if you go with darks and then lights, and then you print it out, it'll look much more kind of harmonious that way, as opposed to jagged little looks in there by just working from light to dark. In one way, you won't pollute your other tones and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't worry about that. Not with those types of markers. They're kind of designed to be used. They're not designed to be used that way, but they work really well for that type of purpose. Okay, so adding this down like this, I think I'm getting a little bit of a dragging of media here. Let me go a little bit brighter with a little bit of a lighter tinge like this, okay? Going over it, I'm finding that it's not merging, but if I work it too much, I think it is picking up some of that a little bit too much. Let's see, okay? I'll go with some of my lighter greens on here in the grassy section. Or I don't know, whatever it is, bushes. I do often do the greens down below, just as something that will contrast against the lighter tones throughout the trees here. Let's see. No, we never did that. I mean, you can go lighter first if you're not merging things, if you're not giving these impressions that are kind of merged, okay, like transitioning like smoothly like that. If you want definitive kind of things like that, if your pens are super juicy where they're going to be physically merging by the fact that they're sitting on a stamp and then slowly going into it. But if you have, but they better be all kind of the same, whatever, juiciness, viscosity, like that. If you're going with light, some are lighter than others, then then you have to be physically merging them on the stamp. If you want the master of that, the person that really invented all that, just watch Dee Grunig's videos on YouTube. She had a bunch of videos on that, but she's pretty much the one that kind of established that whole thing using markers, coloring with markers. And then again, this is coloring with markers on the stamp. It's not coloring on your paper post impression, okay? Okay, going in with my trees, I am dragging out some of that color in here, okay? And I think it's the dyes in here. It shouldn't be physically merging, but I think that dye, well, I don't know actually. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure if it's picking up some of that, I don't know if it's a suspended dye within that pigment ink. And it's not going back into solution though. It's just kind of, I'm just kind of lifting it because it's very surface oriented. I think it'll be fine though. It's not doing it so much that I'm losing the form of the imagery completely. Okay. All right, so let's see. Let's go in with a little bit of a brighter tinge like this. This is called scumbling if you're painting. And I'm kind of going for that same type of scumbling look. Actually, the pens are working really fantastic directly on the paper, like directly on the vinyl underneath. It's going on just fine. I don't know, now that I'm going over here though too, it just seems like it's, I don't know, maybe it just, I don't know, maybe the thing just needed a little bit more time to dry or something like that. Okay, let's see, let's go with the lighter tones. So I'm going with darker tones right now, and that's where it kind of gets a little bit wonky looking. And then I go back in and I blend it in like that too. So it's a little bit different, you know, depending on the different media. With this, with these inks right here, when it comes to transparencies and post-impression coloring, okay, when it's transparent media, I go from light to dark. Then when it's opaque media or translucent media, I go from dark to light. So we'll be working a dark to light type of application with our paint pens. And we'll see how that works on here. I don't know, you know. It's a little bit more challenging here in terms of kind of the concept of it. We'll see how it looks in terms of the results on here. It's starting to stand out a little bit more opaque though. Okay, let's see. Let's see, we need some browns in here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. She was so infectious. She was. Yeah, she was. She passed away, what was that, a year ago or something like that? That's right, the huffing on the stamps. Well, see, that's the thing about Dee. She used so much ink. The Marvy 1500 series especially, they're super juicy. And then they were solid. Her stamps were very solid, so, you know, it really paid to go for those multiple impressions on there. You know, just make use of the amount of ink that was still on there. All right, this is looking kind of crazy, I know. But let's see if we can pull it together. It always looks kind of crazy anyway. But let's see if we can get our paint pens now to really make it shimmer. I want this shimmering type of surface. This is all base layer coating on here. if you intend to use paint pens on there. If you're not using paint pens on here, that was not the technique to use. Okay, so we're going to use both the 3mm and then the 0.7 extra fines right there. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that would be funny to huff on your thing, to get that on your lips, especially if you were at, it'd be funny if you were at a like a workshop or convention or something like that. Okay, so paint pens. Let's go with some greens first, okay? If I were to do this again, I would have printed out these two stamps just in black, I think. I don't know if not the StazOn, but I'm not sure. Maybe, I'm not sure. If I wanted to use the alcohol pens on there, it'd have to be water-based, I guess. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Of course, if this comes out really cool, then you know, it's best to do it the same way again. All right, let's see. But yeah, Dee has those videos that she produced. I mean, you know, I don't know. Someone posted them on, you know, YouTube, which I guess was fine because I don't think they're for, you know, I think they've been long off the market. But check those out if anyone doesn't know who I'm talking about. It might be under D. Grunig or Posh Impressions or something like that. But she was pretty much the one that established a lot of different standards within the industry from right in the beginning. I don't know when she started. I think it was probably in the early 80s, I'm guessing, with Posh Presents out of, I think it was Laguna Niguel or Laguna Beach or something like that. Or it could have been Newport, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where her store was. But my boss from a Stamp in the Hand used to go to her store all the time because she had this, one of those run-through laminators where you can, you know, one of those rolls of laminating plastic, and my boss would go over there and do these big, huge samples that were going to be used as the backdrop for our booth cubby holes and whatnot. And, you know, Dee had that full-on huge laminator that she utilized for laminating different types of, I don't know, whatever decorative types of things, decorative things that they would be, you know, the whole thing was like to, I guess Posh Presents was, you know, to really give these really elaborate looking wrappings to, you know, whatever gifts, you know, that people were giving. So I personally never went to that store though. You know, I was just a peon at a Stamp in the Hand. You know, making stamps in the back room and stuff and working shows and whatnot. I didn't stamp or you know, do demonstrations and things like that. I was an art student and did designs, but I didn't demo in those first you know, few years. They had people that do that. All right, so coming alive a little bit more, you know. Uh, don't judge the a good terminology of this comes out is don't judge a book by its first page, although maybe for those that read a lot, you know, maybe you do judge a book by its first page, you know. It's like either, you know, get your attention and draws you in or whatnot. Don't judge a book by its first maybe sentence. But we do want a decent amount I wanted a decent amount of shimmer. I mean, that was the whole idea. Is the shimmering type of surface down here, can that kind of marry visually with this type of surface up top, you know? And kind of, you know, harmonize or, yeah, I don't know. I don't want the area to kind of compete too much with each other. Like they're two kind of disparate, you know, types of things. I want it to kind of, you know, harmonize with it. So we'll see how that goes. All right, it's coming alive with this yellow right now. The thing that was missing on top of this paper, okay, was the dimension within, you know, the fall tones like that. There's so much busyness going on, so I'm using a little bit more of the paint pen in there on this imagery. Okay, I mean, it shows up really well in here because it was over the top of like white clouds, but on top of this, we get some of that glitter showing through. So it was just a little bit obscured. You see how it's kind of coming together a little bit more up here now? Because we're just bringing that dimension back into it a little bit. I don't know, it's like dot by dot. Okay. It's kind of like the zen of, I don't know, it's like the zen of coloring, you know. I don't find it kind of, um, I don't know. It's not tedious to do this. I think people that start doing it, it's like very relaxing in some ways. Sometimes when I first start doing these dots, it's like I have to kind of assess where I should put them, okay? It's just like highlighting with stamp board or something like that. When people have done this before, it's like they're kind of thinking about it, but then it just becomes like a rhythm with that. That and shading and toning and whatnot like that. Yeah, Dee, I don't know where Dee lived actually, but yeah, all of her stores were in the Southern California area. Um, Orange County mostly. I don't think she went up into LA County or San Bernardino. Um, yeah, Kay, I thought it was Laguna Niguel that that store was at. I didn't think it was Laguna Beach or Newport. I thought it was Laguna Niguel. But then she had stores in like South Coast Plaza, like a temporary store, and Orange, I think it was. I think the store that I taught at was in Orange. Um, I think it was in a mall. I think it was in a mall, but it was in this outside structure though, like a wing, you know, like a little strip outside of the mall. I think it was. And I taught that. No, no, no. I changed my mind. It was in Brea now. Now I'm thinking about it. It was in the Brea Mall, I think. Yeah, which is, that general area. For those of you that are out of the Southern California area, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But I don't know. She had several stores. I think the stores later on were Posh Impressions, though. It wasn't Posh Presents. I think Posh Presents was just that one store that she had originally. Am I seeing things, or is the ink work toning down the background noise? I don't know. It probably is, Well, the more of this paint that I'm doing right here, if that's what you mean by the paint pens, the ink, the paint pen is more opaque, so the translucent applications of the white, okay, in here were showing through. So I'm covering up more of that glitter, those shards, showing through in here, okay? So the more opacity we bring into it, the less of that background we're starting to see. Of course, now this is starting to look very much kind of, raised up out of that surface, though. You know what I mean? It's almost like I put a sticker down like that. So that's what I do on here. What I do is I bring back, we went white, and then we go with the impressions and whatever coloring we're doing, and then we go back to the white afterwards. Okay, so the white is kind of incorporated in with that background a little bit. But then you bring in kind of that white over the top in some areas and from the base up like that. So it's kind of like this imagery in here is going to be a little bit more incorporated in with the background, as much as you can incorporate in something that's just naturally going to be standing out and so kind of different and separated from anything that we would really be doing in stamping format. You know what I mean? I just don't know of any stamping technique that we ever use that's somewhat similar to this. Maybe some holographic types of embossing or something like that. You know what I mean? But not really. These papers are just so crazy when it comes to that. Okay, this is a little bit of green. It's not, okay, I don't think you'll be able to tell what I'm doing here, but it's giving a little bit more form, again, to my little grassy textures down below. It might kind of, it's not maybe, well, I guess you can see a little bit of highlighting on there. But see, it's just giving myself some variation in there. So when you're adding color, you're kind of shading, you're coloring, but, I'm trying to bring a lighting element into the all scenes, not just this one. But when you're working with lighter tones like that, you're doing, you're highlighting in here. So I'm adding this to kind of the top surfaces of, little tufts of grass or whatever. I'm doing it on the top surfaces, okay? Like that. And also, from a textural form, like if you don't have any of these little dots up here, like if all these little kind of like colorful dots are only in one area up there, if you don't bring them down into these other areas, it looks like a, from a textural standpoint, it doesn't look like it's representing what it does. And in this case, it's like shimmering, kind of a, what is that, impressionistic type of take on coloring right here. Good evening, Pam. Good evening, Kevin. Just recently discovered your videos. Love Stampscapes. Like to purchase some stamps, but there are so many. Yeah. Pam, the sets are a good way to go. Like set number 6, 8 are the ones that I typically recommend starting off with. There's something like set number 9, 6, 8, 9. They're all... One of the things about the stamps is that the most useful stamps are kind of the ones that are can often be if you're just new to scenic stamping in general, okay? or really for anyone, okay? The most exciting stamps are the ones that are very definitive. You know, they're, you know, a bridge, a covered bridge or something like that, you know. And that's good to start off with too, but some of the most important stamps and the most universally applicable, meaning you can use them in any kind of scene, are the more boring ones. It's a texture of grass or just some reeds like this, you know, because you can use these. If it's tropical, you can use this as foreground. If it's desert, you can use this as foreground. If it's winter and all dark, you can stamp this out in white and it would look like, you know, frost covered, you know, frozen blades of grass or something like that, okay? And it's the textural patterns like this. These types of things tend to unify all of your different grassy little areas, or if you have a bunch of water, your water texture stamp. And those are the types of images that I've combined in like sets number 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9's a little bit more of a cohesive system with a sky element in there. Okay, but yeah. The one that I recommend the most is set number 8, because it has cloud cumulus. It has oak branch. And again, this is really great for foregrounds. You can have it coming from, maybe I'll use it in this one right here, above like this. It's a larger thing, but I use it for smaller portions. I rarely use this like this. Okay, you know what I mean? Some people do if it's the only stamp in a scene. They stamp a quote next to it. It's got a sunset in the background, whatever, you know, and it's the main image. But see this like here, this is like 1, 2 stamps, you know, up here. There's a lighter portion and a more dense portion, okay? So if I have areas that I want to cover up a little bit more, I go with the dense portion. And if there's more action in the background that I want to show through, then I do the lighter portion like that. But it's also great for bushes like this. Say you don't want to cover up anything in the sky. Then you have it coming in as bushes down below, and it's a foreground, ground cover or something like that. So that's in. And then Lakeside Cove happens to be, you know, it's probably the most popular Stampscapes image ever. It's a Lakeside Cove, but then if you don't color in the reflections down here, like just like on this lakeside type of scenario here, if you just fill in with grass, then these are just simply trees in a meadow, just like the Lakeside Cove is. So water elements like that can be land elements. You just don't color in the reflection. So the most universal types of things tend to be the best ones to purchase. Set number 6 was Verna's first. Yeah, set number 6 was also used in Stamp Wars. So a ton of people bought that post Stamp Wars from about 1.5 years ago. And so I did a ton of content for that set. There's a ton of content for 8 too. And then there's like a ton of content for set 9, which is the smaller Lakeside Cove. And I even came up with a little bit of a workshop for set number 9 using, you know, matte cardstock, glossy cardstock, composition. I think I did it on, there's a lesson on I couldn't remember it. It's the Star Dream lapis lazuli, you know, dark blue iridescent paper. I couldn't remember it there. I've been saying holographic printable vinyl sticker paper too much. I'm forgetting all these. I have to remember that title there. Here, as I've been talking here, my pen got a little bit dry. See, these things, you know, that's a good thing. That means these inks can, you know, dry on your surfaces really quickly, okay? But just kind of scribble it around and get it going again. Okay, so holographic printable vinyl. Okay, it's who asked that? Candy asked that. It's available anywhere. It's available on Amazon. You can probably buy it at a Michael's, I'm guessing, you know, because a lot of people are using vinyls these days, and printable vinyls are really popular, apparently. Holographics, there's so many different holographic types out there. Okay, now remember, there's different types for different purposes too. There's like cold laminate, meaning it's just a sticker of this type of thing that you just put over something, okay? And then there's like holographic cardstocks, okay? They're not printable, okay? They're just cardstock, okay? And then there's the printable ones. The printable ones have this kind of this emulsion coating on there, okay? I don't know, see, they look different. Like this is a cardstock vinyl, okay? And this is like a vinyl. Now, these are different, you know, companies and whatnot, you know. So the holographic aspect is a little bit different. But there's this, if you hold this at a different angle, or if you touch it, it's a little bit tacky. Okay, it's because it has that emulsion coating on there that makes it, you know, be able to accept ink, okay? And ink that will dry in there pretty quickly. Okay, you just need to ink it up, and you need to, if you're stamping a large stamp like this, you can't go like this, okay? And then hopefully that area is going to come in. You have to go left, right, center, top, and bottom, okay? And you stand up doing it too. Because it just has, it's not the stamp size, like dimension. With anything, it's the printable surface area. So like even on this one right here, see, if this was an outline stamp right here and you put pressure on it like this, that amount of pressure is going to get distributed amongst that area. But the more solid something is like this, you have to press, you know, in different areas so that your pressure is going directly straight down from it. And then, you know, the more cushion you have underneath here, underneath your surface, the more that your paper can do the contouring. So I don't know, stamp on if you're having a hard time, just stamp on a magazine or something like that. Put a magazine down, put your blotter paper down, you know, so that you don't stamp on your magazine cover or whatever. And that provides a lot, you know, back in the old days, you know, whatever, 10 years ago, back when people still had newspaper subscriptions and whatever, you know, or if you still have one, put a stack of soft, pliable, you know, newspaper underneath it, and that always did the trick. The worst type of thing, the real challenge was when I was teaching at a convention center, okay? And those convention centers didn't have like a solid table, okay? So they had those convention ones, those plastic ones that fold out, that give, okay? And we were just having a heck of a time getting an impression on those because those tables gave like that underneath our stamps. So the thing that we just solved it with, I just went out to a, I don't know, like a grocery store or something like that after that first day. And we just bought like 3 reams of copy paper. And then we just put a stack of, I don't know, 20 sheets underneath each workstation. And that solved it, you know, enough. But yeah, something like that. So pressure, think about pressure and the distribution of pressure. I have videos on this too. It's like, just look up Stampscapes impression pressure, and I show that. That being said, you don't want to use the same amount of pressure that you use on a stamp with a lot of surface area on something like this, because, you know, you'll get, you know, this is getting off subject matter, but this is really important right here, okay? So you don't want to use like the same amount of impression pressure as you would on a big stamp on something like this that are really spindly, okay? So you're not looking at this as a whole. There's a lot of dense area down here. So you put the pressure down here, okay? Because these areas are really thin like that. That way you get a nice crisp impression. But if you go like this and do that, you know, these top portions will really kind of flare out. So it's really important with larger stamps to, you know, just be mindful of the amount of pressure you're using, okay? So that's, I don't know, that gave it pretty straight like that, but that's a lot of pressure up top there like that. Now I purposely I didn't do the bottom portion, but, you know, you just go like that, and it's nice and easy like that, okay? So just watch where your areas are. Like on this one right here, you need to put too much pressure down here because it's just this small portion. But the densest area is always in the middle of larger stamps, so you want to give straight impression down. And then, but the greatest thing is, the easiest thing is just have enough material underneath your stamping surface so that this itself gives you know what I mean? I mean, like the most extreme version that you would never do is you would have like a sponge underneath here that would be pressing down on there. You know what I mean? You don't want that degree of give, but you want a little bit of a give to make it easier for yourself. So when I start getting like really low on this, sometimes I start missing my impression. Like I should put another stack of like 15 pieces of paper underneath there, and it just makes it so much easier. But sometimes I get lazy, and I don't refill that for a while. So it's like, oh my God, I missed like an area in here. Okay, it didn't print out. So I have to take some of these trees again. I ink it up on my stamp, and I just fill in that little area. And it just happened, I don't know, like a couple streams ago, it didn't print out in the middle. But the thing about landscaping, stamping, you just fill in with, some more tree, and it just, and it fills right in. It disappears in that. Now you don't want like a big silver dollar, area missing, but if you get a little dime size area missing, then just fill it in with some additional textures or whatever, and it just blends right in. All right. So give that a try there. Let's see. I enjoy the vinyl used for signs and banners. I haven't used that. Is that a printable vinyl? I missed some questions up here, I'm sure. If anyone asks me a question, just ask it again. That goes for any video. Directly from the source online. Yeah, the manufacturers sell these things. Final woodblock printing. Oh, huh. It's interesting. I've never done woodblock printing before, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the types of things, after all, when we're using rubber stamps, these are printing mechanisms here, so a lot of the same types of principles would apply. I've done linoleum block printing, silkscreen printing, eraser carvings, and I have done like letterpress, believe it or not. Back in high school, we had old letterpress systems, where we actually set type. Talking about an antiquated type of process, but it was really fun back in the day. I mean, no one was setting type like that back in the day either, on a professional basis. But I don't know, there might have been some niche types of printers doing that same type of thing. But anyways, here's what we're looking at right here. See, that's without the glare. It's a little bit glary like this, but you can see that paint influence on there now, like that. Okay. It's kind of interesting. So shimmer, a good title for this one would be something like shimmer on shimmer. We want to make that these types of things shimmer on here. Let's see. Rubber mat, yeah, that's a good one, Verna. The rubber mat I've heard too. Yeah, the more give you have on a surface, the less pressure you have to apply, because it's kind of, you don't want to have, there's certain types of things that have a little bit too much give though. So you don't want it to be pressing into this, and then this is going down so far, it's moving away from your stamp too. And I mean, if let's say someone's just, they've got hand problems, arthritis or something like that. I have a video where you just take this, and I mean, you just have to know where you're going to print something out on here. You just go like this, and you just take a brayer and go over the top of it. and you have to use very little pressure. You got to make sure that you don't squeeze it down so far that your paper's moving along. But I have a video on kind of alternative impression types of processes. And then, this I'm not even talking about, like stamp positioners, where you can go with the multiple impressions and whatnot. But, if people can use those too. But again, even with the positioner, be mindful about how much pressure you're using in certain areas of the stamp, give it, I see like a larger stamp like this, even like a 3x4, like a left, right, middle, top and bottom type of impression area, on the more solid impressions, okay? Let's see. Yeah, everyone does. Everyone used to do that, Pam. It's because, I don't know, I'm used to doing that because I always want to kind of scribble off, or sometimes like getting these things going like this, I can just go like this. A lot of times people are working on glass or something like that. And I mean, it looks really cool. It's kind of a designery type of thing to do, like designers used to cut on glass or just on clean mats. But then we got all this media that's going on that over thing that's still wet. But this dries and I can just kind of move this around, no problem on there. But everyone used to just, stamp on blotter paper. So I don't know, I just stuck with that. I have tried on, what is that? It's that, I can't remember the name of that material. What is that type of material that you can like put in like an oven? Yeah. What's that sheet called? It's that you can bake on it. People were starting to use that a lot and still do, but for me, I couldn't stand all that wet media on here like that. I put my hand down and, my hand right here was like coated in media because I rest my hand like on the side like this. And I didn't like, I've seen people doing it like where they're constantly picking up and then wiping this thing down. I only need one piece of paper for this whole piece, and I just, I don't know. Maybe it's not good until, if it's seen as like wasteful, but I don't know. I really make use of it, and I don't toss it out usually until I have to. But I don't know. I mean, if you're constantly like mopping off stuff with like paper towel or a towel, then you're using like water to clean that off with too. So I don't know. Just use the things that are the most comfortable. I guess the thing with the paper though, it acts as a cushion too. You know what I mean? For your impression in the event that you're using like acrylic block styles of printing. As opposed to like a MISTI or something of that sort. Anyways, adding more impressions, textures, and this is getting more and more impressionistic. Pretty soon this is going to look like I don't know. What is that? Who Did a Walk in a Park? I think that was the name of that title, or that might have been the translation or the nickname for that painting by, was it Monet or Manet? I can't remember. Not Monet. It might have been Manet. It was like, it's like the whole thing was like pointil. It's always that example used as an example of pointillism. But there we go, like that. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit more crazy than this one right here. This one's a lot more, just straight alcohol inks in there. And I went like more of the yellows and oranges in here, but I don't know, it's coming together a little bit. Let's say silicone. Thank you, Verna. Everyone always knows the answer to every question that comes up in these videos, which is cool. It's nice. Let's see. Arthritis and trigger fingers that lock up. I do anything that makes it easier. Always keep nice and ergonomic. That's really important in crafting, stamping, everything like that. Okay, so yeah, silicone matte, Pam, thank you so much. But yeah, see, on something like this too, when you're doing these things, always move your objects, your areas or your card in an area that's the most conducive to your mark, okay? You don't always have to keep things right up, straight up like this and work on it like this, okay? Spin it around. If you want to get down to this area easier, move it in an area that your hand is going to be able to reach in there like that. So I'm always kind of spinning this type of thing around. I happen to think that that helps too in terms of, I don't know, maybe the visual balance of pieces, kind of spinning them around and whatnot. There was this art instructor that came out with this book. I don't know if it was in the 70s or 80s, but it was called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And her name was Betty Edwards. And that always kind of fascinated me when I was a student in high school. I never bought that book, but I knew the concept of it. And she would have people kind of flip things over and draw them upside down, so she'd have like before and after shots. I don't know, this is one thing that I have a little bit of a problem with, because the before shot was you're supposed to just draw a self-portrait of yourself, not looking at yourself in the mirror, okay, and draw it. And then she would do these exercises where you would spin things around, and then the after shot was, you take a portrait of yourself and then you flip it upside down and then you're drawing it upside down. So the concept is you're not thinking about things in terms of what they actually are, but you're just seeing forms and shapes, and you're able to get kind of a more accurate type of depiction of something when you're not thinking about the objects that you're drawing, because you might have these kind of preconceived notions on what they look like or whatever, as opposed to what they actually look like. I'm getting really off the subject matter, but I think that comes into play with this. So when I turn this upside down, I think I might be able to take a look and see kind of the balance of light and dark and shadows and like that, colors, something like that, more than if I flip this around, I'm thinking, okay, there's this maple tree right there. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of looking at things kind of in general of light and dark like this, where they're not as representative of what those objects are or represent, okay? So spin around and, I don't know, use the other part of your brain. I don't know, it uses a different hemisphere of the brain, I think, It maybe becomes more visual than analytical or something like that. Do you have a Kindle reader? Is it any better with arthritis? Who's that question going towards there? Oh, Debbie. Yeah. Debbie, are you having problems with your hands or something? I'm sorry, I missed that up there. Huh. Yeah, but always keep things nice and ergonomic. That, especially with any kind of repetitive motion. So I'm always mentioning that with coloring too, especially, where it's kind of a repetitive type of thing. And also one of the things that when I'm doing things, I mean, for the most part, I'm not using very much pressure on my hands. So you might see me doing types of things, but I'm doing things with an ergonomic, repetitive movement, because I'm getting an area that's darker through repetition as opposed to pressure. That's more, when I'm applying like inks onto something like that. I'm never really kind of pressing very hard in any type of my motions right here. I think this one of my white pens is not working as good as the other. And that's really important with that. So I'm always mentioning, because I always have to say that, because whenever I'm like, I always mention that when I'm demonstrating, like if I'm in a workshop type of situation, I'm always saying, if we're doing these streaks of color in there like that, I'm barely touching this. So my motion isn't very much different than doing this like in the air, okay? So as I'm applying something, with inks like this, it was it's just a little bit more pressure than just doing it like out in the air like that. Now, sometimes people want to get darker or something like really, really fast, so they think that by pressing harder on something, it will get the process will go faster. It might go a little bit faster, but it's a little bit more of a clunkier type of process. And then oftentimes if they get some kind of like real super dark form or application of media, then oftentimes it takes more types of applications in there to blend in an undesirable mark than to just never have it in the first place, you know, with a little bit more repetition. And it's not like it takes like forever to do. And that's why I have people start off in like dye-based inks on glossy cardstock types of applications. I always have them start off with a re-inker fluid so that it's like super slippery and it just applies, like it glides on there really fast like that. Okay, this is white right here, and we're going around, and this is going to be the thing that kind of starts to really kind of define things a little bit more. It's a lot more related to the whites area that we've gone in. So we've gone white, and then we've gone through all these different inks in here and colors. Okay, now normally this doesn't take, like this didn't take, you know, as much time as this. For one thing, this is much smaller. But on here, I'm working against this super busy backdrop like that, okay? And it's, you know, I'm competing against this in some ways. And in the end, you know, hopefully it's harmonizing with it, okay? So, you know, you have to match, you know, you have to match up with it a little bit, you know? Like this, you know, this background isn't just getting kind of like swallowed up, you know? Or this foreground, you know, the main imagery is not just completely getting swallowed up visually from everything. So, you know, you want to make things, you know, we want to, it's up to the task, you know, in other words, you know, these colors down here. So you see these little areas down here, these little white areas, and that kind of brings in, you know, there's white in here. Now there's white in here. So that's one little commonality type of thing. So we're giving it something a little bit in common. Maybe I'll add the tree trunks in here right now too. These fall types of tones for me, it really comes together when I kind of add in these tree trunks in here. Or back into the scene. I don't know if I always did that. But somewhere along the line, it's like, oh my God, that looks so much better with those, you know, kind of the tree trunks kind of added back into the mix like that. Oh, that's awesome. Travel Dreamer. Oh, by the way, yeah, Betty Edwards, it was kind of weird. Okay, so and we're talking about drawing on the right side of the brain. That book always intrigued me. When I was in high school and whatnot. And then I get to Long Beach State and I'm an art, you know, student there. And where does she teach? At what school does she teach at? I didn't know she taught anywhere. She teaches at Long Beach State, you know? I guess that's where she taught at. But I never took her class because that drawing on the right side of the brain, that's not, it was more of a, like a general ed type of class that, you know, that's not in the art curriculum, you know, for art majors, okay? It was more like for the general student body, like for a general ed class. But if you were an art student, though, you couldn't use that class. For it wouldn't count for anything, you know, because you're already an art major. You can't, you know, take an art, you know, class as a general ed class. So I never took it. I had a roommate that did, though, like in the dorms. But I don't know. Yeah, it always, and I just never had an open opportunity to take it, but I would have liked to. All right, so adding that down like so, okay. That white really added to a lot to it, huh? Look how different that looks without all that lighting in there like that. It's like so different like that. Huh. Yeah, Travel Dreamer. That's cool that you use that that you've been able to utilize that book for those. I think I saw this other. Oh, there's this video out there. I never watched it, but it came up on my YouTube feed, and this would be a good video for people, kind of. For me too, but it was I think it said draw shapes, not or not. It was draw shapes, not object. I don't know. It was something like that. But it was breaking down forms into kind of geometric shapes so that people wouldn't see a horse and say, "Oh my God, I can't draw that." But when you break it down to the different areas, like just into simple geometric shapes, it would make more sense to them where they can lay things out from a shape standpoint, and then develop the forms and textures and all that type of thing later. But they would get the gist of it down through their breakdown of those forms, circles, ovals, and all that type of thing. And I thought that's a really good lesson right there too. All right, so anyway, I'm going into this water area and I'm breaking up my very clumsily applied inks down here. But again, it's all part of the process, you see those types of things as kind of a base layer for other textures to come, and you won't sweat it too much. I was a little bit worried about this one, because when I see all this right here, and if I haven't used these types of mediums before, I'm really not exactly sure, if I'm going to bring it together, in the end. I still don't know for sure, but I'm a lot more confident now, having seen some of the processes, and I'm kind of familiar with what's to come, when something looks like that or whatever. Okay. Yeah, Pam, it's always a good idea. Hold things out at arm's distance and spin it around. Spin it around. It's like, yeah, different, like it's a different perspective, and again, I think I don't know, I think you're utilizing different hemispheres of the brain like that too. All right, I think I absorbed some ink in my thing. Where's that piece of scratch paper here? Here we go. Sometimes you get some dried media up into your tips like that in your paint pens, and you just have to kind of scribble it out like that. So it's kind of going a little bit. Shake it up a little bit if need be. Okay, here we go. But also a different perspective. Hold things out kind of at arm's distance, or look at something across the room too, and it can help to kind of make a good assessment of what might need to be done, and then I would say trust your instincts or whatnot. If something kind of stands out to you a little bit more than others. All right, so here's my trunks in here. Some of it I'm just kind of making up, but I can see Yeah, there are these little trunks in here like that. And I do have little highlights on the side of them, but of course those types of little types of details in the design really get lost with the amount of media that you end up using over the top of it. But then you just go back in and you just reintroduce it like this. So, like I said, you can completely make it up, from scratch. If you don't see anything, you can just put it in there, okay? If you just do one or two like that, it's going to look really kind of weird. So you have to kind of do it across the whole area right there. But you can see doesn't that area look a little bit more dimensional over here than say over here now? Okay, so let's put them in here and right back in here, okay? And see how I'm turning this upside down because it's easier for me to do this little ergonomic little check mark like that, or a little, switch. This isn't easy for me, okay? But this is, because this is the way my hand naturally moves like this, okay? So every little thing like this, any type of little kind of ergonomic advantage for kind of a graceful mark, I always take advantage of that. I always move my card in that direction. I mean, if I was doing like one of these like that, I don't know if I would take the time. But on here, there's quite a few of these, so. I never know what these live streams are going to really be about. This one's, it's about ergonomics, which I think is really important. I mean, I talk about it all the time. I've done those videos on that too. Like I said, impression pressure too. One of the impression pressure videos that I've done is using the Seaside Cove, which is a stamp that's about 3 and a quarter inch high, and it's about 10 and a quarter inch wide. So we're talking about the extremes, in stamping like that. Okay, now here I'm doing this right here, but there's an areas that I can kind of see like that. I'm just doing these little short things for some branches in here. And I'm going a little bit more overboard with these, okay? Because I'm going to go back into these with some additional paint pen over the top of it, to break up some of these just straight lines like that. See, like right here, I'm breaking up that real dark area in there, like so. Okay, so it brings a little bit of light into it, okay? Now here's the thing too. Okay, now if this thing is right here and there's the reflection of it down here, then I can go in my reflection area as well, like this, and I'll just go straight down into my water line and bring in the reflection of that tree trunk back into here. They're shorter though, okay? But see that right in there? And then you can see it in here. Here's an example of those white trunks in here. It's, I mean, it's a little tiny thing, but I think it makes a big difference in this otherwise kind of muddled area. Muddled in terms of, it's kind of visually muddled. So you're going back in here, and it just brings a little bit of clarity into those areas again like that, okay? Yeah, I'm just making some of these trunks a little bit fatter right there, giving it a little bit more body. Okay, so something like that. Structurally, that's a lot better too, I think. It's not just like, all kind of a clutter. Now it's like instead of it just being a clutter of dots, now it's like a clutter of dots and lines. Hello, Linda. We're going crazy with this crazy paper here. Okay, now see, now we have these straight lines in here, so I just kind of, I obscure, I break up some of those lines a little bit more with some more foliage. Some of the foliage is in front of, the trunks. So, the idea is those trunks are kind of, you can see them in between some of the leaves and branches and whatnot. The branches you can see in between the leaves, the foliage. Okay, yeah. Let's make it a little bit here. I'm starting to see, like, we've been talking about in here, I'm starting to see kind of more of the types of areas that might need to be addressed. So for me, like in here, let's make that a little bit lighter, just so it's not so monotonous right in here. And see this right in here? Let's bring a little bit more lightness in here. If you watched my videos before, I talk about this thing called checkerboarding. It's kind of taking your value scheme. There's a color scheme in here. There's themes and whatnot. But see, it's going to a little bit darker, lighter, darker, lighter. Okay, in here. Instead of with shading, I'm kind of doing it with, a little bit more highlighting like this. So it's that oscillation of light and dark within there. Like, I don't know if anyone that's going to do this. This is taking a little bit of time right here. I do like the look, though. Okay. But if you take any kind of lesson from this whole kind of live stream here, is this really didn't, it looked horrible, okay, after I did that alcohol ink base layer coating, okay? But it was just like, that was the foundational layer from which to build on kind of the more visible elements, which are, in this case, the paint pens, okay? The paint pens are, in terms of the impressions down here, the stamps, okay? That's the main kind of star of the scene. The alcohol inks just kind of gave me a head start, okay? So that areas that I don't put a dot, there's already some color laid down on there. So, yeah. Whether you like this or not, I don't know. But I think it's it comes to show you that there's things that you can do, these pieces. I think that can bring them together a little bit more, or a lot more than what they look like in their preliminary kind of stages. Okay, now here's the 3mm white paint. Okay, so I'm just going for a little bit more of a value change here. These pens, they look a lot lighter when I first add this down, but then they kind of blend in a little bit with the, or a lot with the colors that are underneath it. It's either that or they're not physically blending, but they're just drying more translucent or transparent than what they look like when they're freshly applied. Like that white, even now, is looking a little bit more yellow-green because those are the colors that are underneath it right there. So you have to go a little bit more than what might look like ideal when you freshly applied it. Okay. All right, let's see. I'll add some like a little bit of a lighter touches down to my grassy area too. Like so. You put some of it in your reflections like that. All right, so that is that. Now let's bring in kind of more of that blending type of textures or elements into this thing. That's what I'm looking for, elements here. Okay, so one of the things that really brings these things together every time for me, without fail, is just some additional white pigment ink over the tops of objects, okay? Let's see. Hello, Julie. Good to see you. You're not joining too late here, Julie. This is, we're about 5 minutes into this card. Someone's saying, yeah, 2 hours and 5 minutes. I don't know, whatever this is right here. How long have we been on here for? 139. Hey, this is an experiment here. If I was to do this over again, anytime I'm experimenting with things and trying to figure out if certain things would work, this would not take me this long. I could do, I don't know if I could do a quick card like this, okay, but it would be much faster though. I would do something else in the impressions. I would probably stamp this out in just like black or something like, I don't know, something like that. Whether or not, I benefited too much from, spending time coloring those things and stamping them out. I benefit a lot from that on white paper or like on photo stamping, but on something like this where I'm doing so much additional coloring with paint pens, just to, kind of live up to this thing, or whatever, to bring the card up to that level. Not the card, but the impression area. I don't know, I had to cover up more. Okay, so a piece of cotton. I'm blotting that down, smashing some of that ink back into my surface, making it a usable type of applicator as opposed to just, this big frayed type of ball like that. Okay. Actually, I have to smash it down again. Every time you re-ink it, sometimes it kind of gets a little bit frilly until you've used it a few times. Save your cotton balls too if you're using this. You can get like 3 uses out of it. And the second and third use is usually better because it's kind of compact with a lot of that white ink back into it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe throw it in like a Ziploc bag so it doesn't dry out so much. Okay, so let's see. Well, Candy, if I didn't have that white brilliance down here, all of that ink would be kind of showing right through. But I don't know, maybe, I don't know, now I think about it, maybe I can just stamp it down there, and if I was coloring in with the these, or the alcohol markers, the alcohol markers worked on this just fine. Okay, I don't know. It depends how much ink, paint I used on these images right here. I would have, if I go like this, see, there's none of that showing through here. So I don't know. I just don't know. But the thing about this brilliance ink over the top of this, and again, I think you can use just any type of ink on top of it, the Hero Arts or whatever. The brilliance dries a little bit faster, but I think you can use other brands of pigment ink on here because, like I said, the Claire dried for me on top of this, and that's what other types of pigment inks are. They're oil-based inks. But I don't know, you'd have to test it out, okay? But going over this now, see there's white behind it, and if I put white in front of it, it really merges this into the scene because that white is a part of the background, which this is too. See what I mean? So I don't know. That would be something, it's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it on this paper, okay? Like I said, if I'm doing it on a different type of paper, and, there could be a different answer altogether. Okay, so I'm adding some of this right down here, and see how that kind of foggy mist is looking on here. It's kind of coming into the scene like this, so I have some of that same texture and lighting in front of the scene. See how it's kind of merging in with that background texture. Okay, so let's keep doing this. Now don't do it all over the whole thing, Well, when you do it over the whole thing, like one time I had a really bad kind of a scene going on glossy cardstock, and it was like, I don't know, I overworked everything, so I just covered the whole thing over with white pigment ink. Not the brilliance, but just, I don't know, a clear snap, I'm sure, probably, because that's who had white pigment ink back then. Was I just covered the whole thing, and it became a really muted looking foggy morning type of scene where you can barely see my black impression of I don't know if it was this image, it was some kind of lake image, and that looked pretty good. I even made an idea card out of it. It looks so good. But it was one where I was just covering up everything, because it, whatever I had going on there, up to that point just wasn't working. This is years ago. It's like, oh, I guess you can cover everything up, and as a potential application for white pigment ink. It's probably when I started using white pigment ink initially, or close to that time. So see that right there? It's kind of merging in a little bit more. And we had that cloud in the background here, and see this area right in here? This little area, so there's some bigger trees right here, and this is kind of this little waterways wrapping around that. So this area in the back right here, where it gets lower, represents something a little bit farther away, right? So what I do is in those more distant areas, if you want to push space, you can do that kind of after the fact if you want to. And you can put a little bit of pigment ink over the top of it like that. And that area looks a little bit farther back in the distance. Okay, let's go a little bit more like this. Okay. So see what you're doing, we're oscillating kind of soft and crisp, but it's also dark and light. This is darker and lighter because I didn't cover up everything right there too. So, I don't know. And see this right here, this is kind of curling around back out here in the distance, right? So if you want to, you can kind of bring in a little bit of, that soft value, lighter value into that area where lighting gets a little bit more diffused because it's farther off in the distance. And I don't know, technically light is supposed to be hitting that area and coming back to your eye. And, the more kind of suspended sediment in the air, moisture, whatever, is breaking up that form so it gets lighter in the distance like that. But, you don't get too technical about that, but I think it looks better, just from a textural standpoint. So see this, all that imagery is a little bit more integrated in to that background now by having some of it in, in the foreground and in the background like that. I'm going to tone this in a little bit more down here too. I'm going to put some of this across the front of this right here, just to close this bottom portion off a touch, or to mute it too, I think. And then we'll add in some foreground in here too. Maybe I'll use the oak branch or something that we talked about as like a little bush. Okay, so I have these maple leaves that would be good on here, and I can do them in color in certain types of instances, but on something like this where we're working with so much bright colors in here and textures in both the surface and imagery stamped in there right now, that would be kind of the midground or whatever, focal point. I'm just going to go with darker images in my foreground areas just so that it, I don't know, it'll keep it a little bit more minimal, and it'll keep the attention on two things that are already super, super, kind of attention getting. There's a lot of color and texture in here, so maybe not the oak branch. The oak branch is kind of, it's a little bit patterned. Coming in from the top, it might not look bad, but let's go with the reeds down here. Just keeping it nice and simple down here. StazOn black, maybe? I'm not sure. Thanks, Paulette. A gesso, as I've never thought about using gesso as a base. I have seen gesso used. I wouldn't want, my preference would not be to have something too textural down here, because like, if you're stamping, sometimes if you get like even like a little piece of lint on your stamp, you guys ever get that, and then you stamp it out and it leaves that big ring. Well, gesso, unless you can get it like super flat, I guess if it was one of those pre-treated boards, like panels, gesso boards, maybe something like that I would do. But I don't, unless you want to incorporate the texture into it, you know, then that would be kind of cool. But gesso on top of this, and then your forms on top of that, I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see. I love seeing different types of media, especially art media, incorporated in with, you know, kind of more the crafting types of media. Try it. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, no, Kevin, I want you to try it. Then just tell me, you know, if it works or not. And I'm thinking the same thing. Try it and tell us if it works, or show us, you know, show us the results. All right, so see that right there, side like that, nice and dimensional, I think. I'm overlapping, changing the angle. I'm not going to do that quarter page one today because this one's already you know, this live stream's already been 10 hours here, so. But yeah, using the StazOn. The StazOn, I just figured, you know, if you're running StazOn over the top of both the dyes, the Brilliance pigment ink, the acrylic paint pens especially, I just know the StazOn would stick to all of those, okay? The VersaFine Clair might work out okay. I'm just not, especially over the top of this surface, no problem. The Brilliance, no problem. I'm not quite sure what the VersaFine Clair would do over the top of acrylic paint, though, okay? So I'm not sure about that one. Okay, let me see. Let's see here. I'm going to go with these leaves like this. These are just some maple leaves, and let's do them in black. Okay, let's try the StazOn on here. I think I found out from my initial tests using the Koala ones, that the Koala brand paper, is that I thought that the Clair might have given me the best impression just straight onto the foil. Shall we try that? Okay, we might as well try that. I know the StazOn is going to be working on there just fine, and I know the StazOn would work up here. Let's test out the Clair, you know, while we're at it. The Clair, I thought, gave me a really great impression. And my theory was just that pigment inks are just thicker than other types of inks. So if it has the ability of drying on a certain type of paper, and if you're going for the strongest possible impression, then maybe that was the one to go with. I don't know. The StazOn looked really good too. I'm not sure where that... I have that test print here somewhere. I don't know where it went. But... I don't know, it's around here somewhere. But let's try, you know, this is a you know, card, an experimental card, right? So let's see how this goes. Oh, that really stuck. Okay, I stamped that into the did I stamp that into the white? That peeled up on here, and it removed some of that ink right there. Okay, see that right there? I mean, that could have been, it could be user fault too. Maybe I held that down too long, and then when I peeled it up, it was like peeling it off, you know, something. Let's try the StazOn. Let's do both here. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's go with this. Let's see. Okay, let's go down like this. Here, I went down. Let's see. Let's go right here. I'll make a little cluster. That is weird. I'm getting this kind of subtractive type of process right throughout there for some reason. Why is it stamping out really dark in some areas and light in other areas of the print that are seemingly the same surface? And let's go again here. Okay, let's hold down a little bit longer, like that, and then removing. I don't know, that's fine. Like that. What happened over here? I have no idea. Let's try it again. Was I not holding down long enough? I'm not worried about different values of ink in there. It looks like, you know, a lot of times I do that anyway, where it's like some things are a little bit lighter and some things are a little bit darker within that foreground setting there. I don't know. Okay, let's try this one right here. The StazOn ink really dries fast, so I'm like peeling this off. It's like I'm peeling off like a, you know, like a sticker on there. Okay, so the StazOn ink, if I hold it down longer, I think I'm getting a more straightforward impression like that. Okay. Sometimes I'm worried about the StazOn ink. Sometimes if I hold it down too long, it adheres to the rubber, and then I'm removing it, and then it's less ink on the surface. So, I don't know. This one went over the top of both the Brilliance ink and the paper. But again, I held down longer. Okay, let's go like this. I don't know, let's hold it down longer and see. Good night, Debbie. Hello, Jeannie. Gesso as a base. It dried very quickly, not easy to apply with cotton. Oh, you used, gesso as opposed to pigment ink, huh? That's interesting. Okay. Perfect? I don't know. Let's see. Here, let me go over here again. Let's go with a longer impression right here. Just I'll do it in a small little area right here. I don't know. Maybe I was handling it here and I had like oily fingers. I don't know. No idea why that doesn't print there. It doesn't print with anything. Here, let me try something here. I mean, there could be some stuff on there from the previous impression. Here's a Brilliance black, okay? It's nice and thick. It's water-based. Let's put that in that area right there. Let's see if that sticks. I think at the Brilliance ink, I think the longer the impression, it usually worked a little bit better in terms of the transfer. Let's see. Okay, the Brilliance worked just fine. Huh, the Brilliance black. But, you know, okay, I can't even remember what that one was right there. Oh, that was the StazOn. These two are StazOn, right? So, a little bit of foreground like that. Okay. Let's do something here. Let's bring in a little bit of that textural variation to the actual foreground area as well. Where did this go? Here we go. Okay. And I have some clouds. So those clouds are right there in front of those leaves. Okay, so what happened right there is some of those leaves stamped out a little bit lighter. So we're just going to incorporate that look right into the scene, or into that area. Okay. And we'll just go with some more white pigment ink. All right. And let's add bit of a tone or texture into the foreground elements like this. So see that right there on those leaves like that? So you're kind of bringing in light into that element like so, okay? And you can do it here too. Here's a leaf that's kind of hanging down in this lighter area. I mean, granted, that cloud's not supposed to be like right here. It's supposed to be like, you know, I don't know, whatever, 20 miles away or something like that. But it's just an opportunity here because it's light on this surface right here. So it doesn't just have a blob of white like in here. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more incorporated in with the scene. And same with these grassy areas down here. That's a little bit, I have the depth from that, but it's a little bit too harsh. So I'm going to go in to some of these grassy areas right here. So we have this area in the background. Then we have this little bit of that cloudy kind of mist in front of these reeds. So get this. So this is sandwiched in between white, right? We did those clouds in the background first, stamped that over it. We brought in that white into it. Now we've stamped these images right over that, but now we can bring in a little of this white in front of this one too. So we have this image, these foreground images kind of enveloped in that mist, right? And now these elements are enveloped in it. And same thing with up here too. Yeah. I don't do that on every scene. A lot of times it's just, you know, I stop at the foreground. But in this case, I think it's helping quite a bit so that the whole thing isn't so harsh. Okay. Go about like so. All right. All right, I think that is it here. A little kayaker. If I do that kayaker down there, I'm going to have to envelop them in a little bit of mist as well. If I did that kayaker, I'd want them a little bit higher, I think. And they'd be right in that. That's too busy right there. Here, let me see something. Oh, here. And no, okay, let me see. I'm looking for my little... Those gulls have been on my desk for a while. That's why they're getting a lot of usage, but let's do... I think right here, maybe. Okay. StazOn. Okay. Let's go about right here. All right. And then let's go over the top of a couple of those birds with that same texture. So very thematic, I guess, in terms of the treatment of all different forms on here. So those little birds are, some of them are kind of muted a little bit. See how they're kind of darker in the foreground and lighter in the background. Just within that little span right there, just giving them a little bit of variation. So all right, I think that is it. Huh. So, my first attempt on this different surface right here, this crazy kind of shard looking surface, you know, it wouldn't, from the look of it initially, it just, really any of these things to me often do not look like they'd be something kind of appropriate for, or applicable. I wouldn't say appropriate. Anything is appropriate in art, stamping, or whatever. But, you know, does it enhance the scene at all, you know, in terms of it being there? Or would it be better if it was just, you know, a white piece of paper, you know, some cloud, or blue or whatever with those clouds in the background? I don't know. I definitely think it's more exciting, you know. I mean, if I was to do this, if I was to do a scene for someone, or if I've been doing scenes for someone, I think that this is a nice addition to something like that. And I do like the interactive nature to all of these holographics like that. You know, and just it really looks different depending on the angle, and it really is something that's, it really invites kind of an interactive type of I don't know, whatever movement with the recipient or the viewer of the piece. They want to move it around like that. Okay. But for me, this piece right here, I think that area up there, I think it would be perfect for a winter scene. I could see it in just like a muted snowy landscape or something like that. Maybe in a mirrored type of situation too, but some trees or something like that. And just this, yeah, this winter wonderland type of thing. I use the you know, the autumn stuff because I had it out, because that was already on here, and I know, well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure like a snowy type of the thing that I wanted to use on here was the snowy covered bridge that I did not too long ago with the starry printable vinyl one. Okay. And a couple trees, you know, here on the side, like really solid ones. But I wanted to see, I haven't used like a lot of color on anything yet with this colorful type of vinyl like this. And, you know, and I mean, there's other, you know, like this one right here. This would be a different feel to the scene, you know, not as harsh. So this is like the, you know, the most, you know, whatever, the most contrasting type of surface that I've used in the printable vinyl so far. It seems strange that this is like, you know, I'm talking about this being a little bit harsher of something than previous use. This is the other printable vinyl like that I've been using that looks, you know, it's really fun to use. So I don't know, just a different type of pattern and whatnot, a little bit more jagged and shardy in terms of the forms in here, you know, harsh angles and stuff. But yeah, a winter wonderland type of a scene, you know, with something like this. Let me tone down my exposure here a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit better right there. So okay, I was a little bit overexposed like that on my camera, starting off with, you know, a super bright tone. This is still bright, but it's a lot more muted like that. But you can see the color's a lot more representative of what this page looks like. So anyways, that's it right there. I'm looking at this now, you know. I'm thinking this would be good for like something with some really strong contrast. Like if someone has like a silhouette of like a haunted house, you know, being a, you know, winter or something like, you know, Halloween, that would look cool on here. Some bolder tones, or like I said, you know, some of these bolder types of images, you know, the Lakeside Cove or something like that would take care of it in jiffy, you know, covering up something like that where, you know, there wouldn't be kind of these two colorful elements like that. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. So a good experiment for me. And I don't know what was going on with that black up there. I have no idea, about the StazOn. Why did the StazOn and Claire not stamp over that, but the Brilliance Black did, I don't know. I would have thought the diversifying Claire in terms of a printable surface would be able to give me a good impression up there, but it didn't for some reason. It kind of broke up a little bit in terms of a solid form, so I have no idea like that. Let's see. Yeah. Thanks so much. Light over the brilliance. Sorry, Verna, what was that referring to there? Maybe you're holding it down too long over the brilliance. Yeah, that could be, Kay. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have no idea what was going on with that. Because I don't know, I tried holding down longer over here and it worked fine, These ones were the longest impressions right here. That one, I don't know, it was like intermediate right there. There was something going on right in this little area right there. I don't know why. These impressions, I didn't get anything thing with that, but those ones had less surface area, so there's less of a kind of a factor with those in terms of the impression quality, I think. I don't know. I have no idea. First try on this, and again, I'm not sure. Okay. So here's my take on this brand. Okay. Over like the Koala one, or in comparison to the Koala, I don't think I experienced anything too different from that Koala brand paper that I've been using a lot of to this one, unless that area up there was representative of some sort of difference in the two different brands from brand to brand. I have no idea, so I just don't know. I don't know. We'll try something next. The next thing I'm going to try is a mirror card using this one right here. This other cool kind of pattern piece. It's similar to the just straight holographic, but it does have a little bit more of that texture on there like that. So let's see how this one fares with. I don't know. I'll use some different imagery on it. I'm not going to use the autumn on that one. So we'll see how that one goes. And I don't know, we'll try some different types of things on it too. And we'll do like a mirrored type of surface, I think, on that one. I really want to see how that one works out. So anyways, so yeah, color on color right here. Shimmer on shimmer, whatever. And another take on some fall tones using I don't know, fall kind of color shimmer types of effects with paint pens against, a crazy type of surface. It's like Picasso's cubism kind of period in the background. Maybe not Picasso. There was another artist that did those types of things. I'm not comparing myself. I'm talking about that background and just the, the cloud thing. I like the cloud one a little bit more, but this one's definitely more kind of like I don't know, some kind of crazy pop art type of thing going on in the background, paired with the types of imageries like that. Like I said, I would go with something a little bit more bolder for that one, I think, going on in the background. Cubist. It's Cubist versus, it's Cubist and what did I say? It was, oh, Impressionist. It's Cubist Impressionist. It's a Cubist and an Impressionist take. Unless you want to say pointillism, but no one knows what pointillism is out there. It's like a modern art version of our take on that one. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks again, folks, for joining in. Oh, I like that kaleidoscope. That's what it looks like right there. Thank you, Verna. That does look, it looks like one of those kaleidoscope things that you'd used to, go, do that thing through. That's exactly what that looks like. Yeah, and they had all those little scraplings of all that stuff in there. All right, good name. We'll use that one. Kevin, can you peel the backing off the card? Yeah, this is sticker paper right here. So this is a vinyl printable sticker paper for sure on this one. For me, if I was mounting this on something, I guess if as long as I don't have to go in like a specific area and I'm just laying it down on something, I would do that, and then I would probably brayer out the things, you know, little bubbles in it. But if I'm mounting this on something specific, by the time it gets that big, and if it, like say specifically, if I was doing a mirror card with this and I had to pair it up like that, sometimes it's a little bit too hectic for me. So I'm just going to put the tape, you know, my tape roll on the back like that and just glue it down like that, where I'm not having that full on length and width of the sticker paper kind of thing. Because it's, from what I've experienced with the other one at least, it was really sticky. And if I accidentally go like that, and if I'm off like a 16th or an eighth of an inch right here, by the time I lay it down here, it might be off, you know, even more. And it was like, I just could not get it off, you know, peel it back off, even if, you know, if I laid it down a little bit too much. I mean, I you know, I've never, probably wouldn't have a problem doing like a smaller piece like this, or an even smaller one, you know, whatever. People are printing out things and cutting, you know, smaller things out, you know, on their printers. But with something like this, though, I don't know. It's always hard for me to get these things going, though. Oh, this one is easy. See this right here? Like that. So, yeah, but really, really sticky. I guess it has to be sticky because, you know, people are taking these types of things, these vinyls, they're printing on it, and then they're putting it around things like bottles and, you know, jars. You're sticking it on objects, hoping that it'll be, you know, semi-permanent like that. I don't think you can put something like that through the, you know, the dishwasher or something like that. But I don't know. We're putting it on things like, my wife has like a Cricut and stuff, and she's printing out like vinyl things and sticking it on. She's labeling everything, you know, like in the pantry. You know, so these types of things, you know, I mean, it probably has to be a really strong adhesive. Otherwise, people are going to be complaining about it, you know, peeling off after, you know, a month or something like that. Donna knows what pointillism is. Awesome. I've never seen like like a lot of examples. It's always that walk in the park or stroll in the park or whatever that I always see in like art history books and whatnot. But how does that card look against the mirror card? Oh, you want to see it look, you know, reflected against a mirrored surface. I don't have like a full length of it. And this thing would already, you know, I would have it mirrored up here, you know, higher up like normally. Well, I don't know. Let's just put it, oh, actually, let's just put it up against this one because this one already has the that little area down there. Well, and actually, no, because that, I would have to cut it off right there, but you can kind of get the gist of it down there. See, like that? Here, let me see. But like I said, I already have the foreground in here. The foreground right here on a mirror card would be on this lower section like that. But here's just a pure silver thing like that. Like that. Like I said, it's not matched up at all, but you can kind of at least see the reflective quality on there, you know. Like I said, the mirror card would be more, you'd have it up here like that, okay? Yeah, you'd have it like that right there against that water line, where the water line starts like this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that, you know, this type of thing with the mirror thing, you really want that, the things that are exciting up here, you want those, you know, duplicated down here. So here, just right over here. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would go for more contrast in a mirror card situation like this. What you want is you want more contrast between this and this. I think it shows up better in the mirrored portion. So for me, on this mirror card right here, the thing that makes this thing so effective is that blue against the white showing up down here. I mean, this looks really good in here too, this little area right in here. But there's a lot more contrast, you know, but this right area right here. So it's the contrast between like this whole thing too and the background. Plus in the background, it's the white against the blue like that. So it just, you know, it just shows up so much more on this one right here. On this one right here, I cut down the contrast between the background in here by putting in that cloud right in here. So it's this color against white like that, as opposed to this, against, darker against that or whatever, So just more contrast. Anyway, so here's a thing with the holographic. If you haven't seen these cards before in the holographic, one of the things I like about it is it kind of changes the time of day, So here's the time of day at nighttime, and here's daytime if you're, I don't know what you would have to be to see those types of colors or patterns or shapes, or what state you would have to be in, to see those types of colors. Well, it's like a kaleidoscope or something like that again, right? Doesn't have to be some sort of a, I don't know, kind of weird thing that someone's on. But I don't know, it's just kind of fun to kind of move it around like that. Okay, anyway, thanks for joining in on Stampscape Sunday, everyone. Enjoyed the process right here and discovering some new things about, I don't know, some different types of papers. I guess in this case, I didn't really discover too many things about this paper after using the Koala one, but I don't know. I have my certain types of takes probably on color, busy kind of coloring types of things going on in here against, it's like busyness against busyness. I usually don't do that. I have other areas that are calm against busy, you know what I mean? Just for some contrasts, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of contrast in this one going on. I tried to create some of it with the white in here, but just having that element in here in the main areas like that, it's a little bit something that's kind of similar, but in a little bit of a different way. The coloring types of changes and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of variation in here. Maybe if I don't know, maybe if I had like darker elements in here too, like like this, maybe that would be better. You know what I mean? I mean, there are some of those pine trees in the background like this, so it wouldn't be kind of completely out of order like that. I think I would frame things off, like that a little bit more. Some bolder types of shapes, going off in the background. These are a little bit too spindly. I don't know. I might do those. I'm not sure yet. I usually don't go back to these things after I'm done with the live streams, though. But I don't know. Maybe on something like this, I will when I'm formatting it into a card. I'm not sure. So I don't know. I might add that kayaker down here too. Well, we talked about kind of perspective and spinning it around and stuff like that and taking a look at different angles. Sometimes the perspective is time, you know what I mean? We have it sitting around and we go back to it later on and look at it and think, oh, it needs this, this, and this, That's something that might be more apparent with a little bit of time like that too, so yeah. I just used to tear and tape to make it easy. Got it. It looks special on holographic. The holographic definitely adds to it. Like I said, if I was giving a card to, well, I mean, it could be an adult too, or, crafter or stamper or something like that haven't seen that type of thing like that. But if I'm doing a card for a kid, I think I'm stamping on top of the vinyl holographic printable sticker papers, and just to have that extra kind of dynamic nature in it. You know what I mean? I mean, those kids, we're, especially these days, you're competing against, what that can be 24/7 access to, video games and stuff like that. They're walking around with, iPads and those types of things. So, you know what I mean? Having some kind of interactive type of element within, the card like that, I think that makes it a little bit more unique for them too. And like what I always say in illustration, you know, if you can hold their attention for a little bit of time, you know, and it gets their attention or whatnot, that's always kind of a win right there. So, yeah. All right. Have a great rest of evening. I like the idea of the kayak too. It needs some kind of focal point. Oh, our fisherman down here. I think the waiting fisherman, like the little silhouette down here, would be kind of cool like that. Yeah. I need maybe something a little bit bigger like that, but kind of looking out into the scene. And there's the kayaker too. I have the kayaker 3/4 view. I want them kind of paddling out into the scene. But I don't know. I'll figure it out. With time comes perspective. See you in the next stream. All right, good night, everyone. Have a great rest of day, whatever time it is for you. Yeah, the crane would be good too. I don't know. We'll add some things to this. It needs a little bit of something. It needs something, a little bit of an anchor down here of some sort. Like I said, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. And I also want to get some other colors of brilliance and StazOn, so I don't know, you know, like a little background leaf in there of some red or something like that, maybe up there. I don't know, maybe it's too much though, with all that color already happening in our kaleidoscope autumn. All right, folks. Thanks again for joining in on Stampscapes Sunday. Hopefully we'll see you on the next stream sometime. I'll try to actually schedule something one of these days, but yeah, it's always been whenever I can kind of get around to it. All right. Have a great rest of evening and week or whenever we see it next.